Hi, I just had a really, a genuine question that I've been wondering for a while, but I don't know, I guess I've been a little too embarrassed to ask, but it eats away at me. Every night when I'm in bed falling asleep, I just can't help but think, and I know it's really basic, and it was kind of a trend, like a year or two ago. It maybe still kind of is a trend, but I don't know, I feel like when people asked it at first, maybe it was a little genuine, and then it became all just like shits and giggles and funny and stuff. But I mean it. It's been keeping me up at night, so I wanted to ask, and this isn't funny at all. This is 100% honest from my heart, and yeah, I don't know. So don't laugh, okay? But I just wanted to know, would you love me if I was a worm? And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, this is another one of those silly ASMR posts. No, it's not. I'm 100% asking, would you still love me if I was a freaking worm? I need to know. And there's only one right answer. The answer is yes, obviously. Because if you said no, I'd have to kill you. But anyways, that's kind of beside the point. It's deeper than that, okay? Because it's not just yes. I want to hear about all the ways you'd care for me. Because I know if you were a worm, I would love you forever and you'd live the best worm life out of every other worm in the entire world. And also, Google says there's like trillions upon trillions of earthworms. Not that you'd be an earthworm. Like, I don't know what kind of worm you'd be. We'll get into that later. But there's so many freaking worms, so that's really saying a lot. Anyways, you know what I would do for you? I bet you don't, because I bet you haven't thought deeply about this question at all. I would build a giant terrarium for you. Hold on, I don't know how the square footage of dirt that a worm is supposed to have. Let me Google it. What is the square footage of your average worm? And I'm Googling average because I just want to know the average worm, okay? But you're not average, so I'm definitely gonna give you more square footage than like the average worm, obviously, because I love you so much. So, let's see what Google says, okay? How much composting worms do I need? What? I'm not gonna compost you, what the flip? Wait, oh, that's putting worms in compost. I would do that for you. I am also gonna have like my own designated compost out of all the foods that I eat. And you know what? I'll sacrifice other people's significant others that turned into worms. I'll put them all on the compost and they can make it super delicious so that you can have fresh compost in your dirt just for you because I love you. And I want to know that you do the same thing for me because you love me that much. But anyway, let's get back to the point. I would need to have 1,000 people's boyfriends as worms or girlfriends as worms per 1 pound, I think, square foot space. Let me read that right. Maybe I'm turning into a worm already and my brain isn't working. So this says, how many composting worms do I need? Again, this is me taking people's significant others that have turned into worms and I'm gonna put them into my own compost just for you, so you have the best food ever. So, you're gonna have the most nutrient-rich, dense soil in the entire world because you're an above-average worm. So, if you are starting a worm compost bin for the first time, one of the first questions you probably have is, how many worms do I need? In fact, the question of how many composting worms you need for worm farms, gardens, and raised beds is one of the most common inquiries we get from customers. Oh, I can buy people's boyfriends and girlfriends that turned into worms? That's a pretty crazy business. So, I just want to know a simple answer. How many worms do I need for a composting bin? So, okay, I would start small with a half pound to 1 pound of worms. Yeah, that's probably what I would do. Yeah. The number of worms needed for a worm composting bin depends on the square footage of the bin and how much waste you want to compost each week. 1 pound, roughly 1,000 of compost worms per square foot of worm bin space is a good benchmark. What? In 1 pound there are 1,000 worms? So that's how many I'm gonna have. Well, 1,001 because you're also a worm. But you're gonna be kept in your own special terrarium, and it's gonna have a fuck ton of dirt in it for you. And some really, really high quality, perfect compost for you. Yeah, it'll be really delicious. And you know, I mostly eat like fruits and vegetables. I'm not like a vegetarian or anything, but I don't know. I'll have lots of fresh fruits and vegetables. I did make a pot roast recently, so I could probably put leftover pot roast in there if I don't eat it all, I guess. Because you deserve the best. I don't know, would you want to compost things? I could put like one piece of food in there for you to compost, but I don't want you to have to do any labor. I want your life to be easy and stress-free as a worm. Yeah, you might get lonely as a worm, but I cannot put any other worms in there because what if you fall in love with a worm? You can't fall in love with a worm, you have to stay in love with me. But I'll put on I'll put on your favorite shows. I don't know, if you're a worm, do you only want to watch worms on TV? Or like on YouTube or something? I don't know, what the fuck? I don't know, I guess we'll have to figure out some sort of code communication sort of thing so we can still communicate when you're a worm. And we'll figure it out, but we should probably figure this out before you get turned into a worm. Not that I'm planning on turning you into a worm, but you never know when it could happen. It could happen at any time. So another thing that I've been thinking about, I think I will give you some fresh food / scraps from myself to digest and compost on your own, because I think it might get a little boring being a worm and having nothing to compost. Like, that's kind of the point of being a worm, you know? But I'll just give you some, and I'll give you like the freshest like banana peels and like whatnot, whatever you want. But like I said, I will make a whole nother compost that has really nutrient dense soil, and I'll have that be like the other 1,000 worms that I have, and they can all do that, and then I'll give you some of that food. And then if any of them, I guess, turn back into people, they can go home. I won't keep them here. But yeah, I don't know, I think it could work. And hopefully they're not all people's boyfriends or girlfriends that are turned into worms. Hopefully they're just like normal worms. Because I think it might be sad if everybody's boyfriend and girlfriend gets like taken away from them. But yeah. Oh, I also was doing a little bit of research, and I think I would keep you in like maybe at least a 5-gallon terrarium. And it seems like you matter. And I know that kind of is like, of course I matter, hemmi. I'm your worm significant other. But like, I mean it. So your opinion matters, and what kind of worm you think you'd be, because some worms really like to burrow deep. So if you wanted to burrow deep, I would make sure I got you a really, really deep terrarium with lots of space to burrow. But some worms don't like to burrow super deep. They like to be at the very top of the soil. So if that's the case, I'll give you like, well, I don't want to have you in like a little baby swimming pool, because although that does take up quite a bit of like space, and I can have it shallow, like dirt-wise, I want to be able to see you. So I don't know, I would have to maybe commission a custom-sized terrarium that is glass. I don't know, would you get confused if there were corners? I don't want you running into a corner, so maybe I would have to get like a custom glass circular terrarium that isn't very deep. Yeah. So I don't know, I would figure that out though, because I love you. And that's the whole point of this question, you know? I'm exploring what it would be like to live life with you as a worm. Yeah, so when people ask this question, it's not just a simple yes or no. Duh. What else? What else about you being a worm? Yeah, we're gonna have to figure out like a code language. I was thinking maybe like when I'm talking to you and stuff, you'll be above the soil, like you'll come up out so like I can see you very clearly. And maybe if I ask you something and it's a yes, you kind of like bob up and down, and if it's a no, you can kind of wiggle side to side, like you're shaking your head, but you're a worm, so you shake your whole worm body. That makes sense, right? That's easy to remember, I think. Yeah. Yeah, and how cool would that be? I would have a sentient worm. Okay, so in this world where you're turned into a worm, hopefully not everybody's boyfriends or girlfriends are being turned into worms. Or maybe I do hope so. Cause, okay, so hear me out, right? So if it's just you that's turned into a worm, you've always said you wanted to be famous. So I could like film you and then we could make YouTube videos together where I'm talking to you and you're a sentient worm and everybody's gonna think that's super cool. And then I can show you their comments and we can reply together and it would be really neat. We can maybe do TikTok live too, if you like that. I don't know. But yeah, I think it'd be super cool. We could have like a whole separate worm channel. We could like, I don't know, name it like The Worm and Me. Well, that kind of sounds perverted. It sounds like Worm and Me. Like, you know, wink wink. But I mean like Worm and Me, you know? Because we're a team. Yeah. But, okay, so the other part of that is, so you know how I was like, if it was just you as a worm versus like, what if everybody's being turned into worms? I think if everybody was being turned into worms, it would be kind of good because then like scientists would maybe try to find a cure for it, or maybe there would be entire worm cities built, you know? I think it might be a little fucked up and evil if the worms that I got from the 1,000 worms, they were all people's boyfriends and girlfriends. I think that would be kind of fucked up. So maybe if lots of people were being turned into worms, they would make worm cities and civilizations for all the worms to like live in together, and then they can like understand each other, because it's probably, like I said, it's hard to communicate with a worm if you're a human unless you already have like a language and code that you guys have figured out together, like us. But that being said, if everybody was being turned into worms and stuff, I suppose if you wanted to live in a worm city, I suppose, would we be breaking up though? If you went to live in a worm city with a bunch of other worms, like a bunch of other like people's boyfriends or girlfriends that were turned into worms? I don't want to break up, but I guess if it's what you really wanted, I guess we can't discuss it if you're a worm, so we kind of have to figure these things out ahead of time. But we do have our code language, so I guess I could see how you felt about it then. And it also depends too on like what these worm civilizations are like. Like, is it no humans allowed? Because what if some of the worms are like top dwellers? Because like I said, so there's worms that like to burrow, there's worms that like to be like shallow burrowing, you know, like a couple inches into the soil. And then there's some worms that like to be kind of like on top and like leaf litter and stuff. But if you wanted to move to a worm city, I don't know. Oh man, I guess it depends on how far away it is from where I live. Like, what if it's really far away? I don't really want to do long distance, but I love you, so if we really wanted to do it, we could probably make it work. We, as in me, because like I'm like bigger than you. If you were a worm, I have legs and stuff, so, and like a car, so I can like drive to your worm city. But yeah, you would just have to promise not to cheat on me with another worm. You know, that would make me pretty sad. So yeah, but then I guess I would never know because it'd be so easy to hide it. And as a human, a lot of worms look the same. What if I talked to somebody at the Worm City and it wasn't you, but I thought it was you? Well, I guess you and I have our pre-discussed code language, so not everybody would know. So maybe I wouldn't accidentally talk to somebody else as a worm. But what if I did? That'd be pretty drama, you know what I mean? That's pretty crazy. Yeah. I don't really want you to turn into a worm. But if you did, I would make sure you would have the best life ever. Yeah. Yeah. I could also ask, like, different compost stuff. Like, if there's any favorite food scraps you like to compost, I could ask you that too. Because I was thinking, and like, I don't eat that much meat. I did say I made paw roast, and I did make a paw roast. But, I don't know. Worms can eat any organic matter, you know? But meat might get a little smelly. And also, as a worm, you might have different taste buds. Do worms have taste buds, though? That is a question. Let me do some scientific research. Do worms have taste buds? No, worms don't have taste buds like humans, but they do sense taste and smell using specialized chemical sensing cells in their skin and mouth. Yeah, okay, so basically they do have taste buds then. What the flip kind of answer is this? Okay, obviously they don't have the freaking same taste buds as a human because they... Do worms have tongues? I'm learning so much about you. Let me see. Do worms have tongues? They don't have tongues, they lack teeth and use muscular mouths and sensory lobes called prostomiums to ingest soil and decaying matter. There are some sorts of worm-like creatures that do have, like, tongue-looking things, though. Yeah. Parasitic tongue worms. They're named for their tongue-like appearance but are highly specialized arthropods with hooks for attaching to hosts. So they're not exactly worms, I don't think. Because worms are annelids. So I don't know. I need to do more research on bugs, I think. Yeah. Because also there's a bunch of different types of worms too. You could be any kind. We'll have to figure that out too. We'll have to do maybe a personality test with you and see what kind of worm you lean towards to see if you were any sort of type of worm that kind of matches with your personality versus just a normal worm. Because you might be something unique. And if you are, I will plan to take care of you. I will meet your worm needs as best as I can. Yeah. So, what I'm finding is I want to see what these tongue worms look like. Tongue worm. Picture. Oh, these are kind of, I don't know how I feel about them. They're not very big. They're kind of cute. They kind of look like they belong in the ocean, to be honest. They have flaps on the side of them. Maybe I'll insert a picture for you, so you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, back to the question. Worms and taste buds. Let's see. Well, I get that they're not exactly taste buds, but they're similar. They can still taste using special cells inside their mouth. I love learning about worms. I feel like I am planning for our future. Even though there's no guarantee that you're going to be turned into a worm. And honestly, it's probably for the best that you're not turned into a worm. But that's the whole point of conversations like these, you know? Just in case. That's what I would do if I was a worm and I was eating composted soil. Yeah. I feel like it would taste good. Especially if you made special compost for me. I would really like that. I think that'd be very thoughtful. Okay, let's see. Mama. Okay, Earthworms can still taste using special cells inside their mouth and other cells that are in their skin. As well as tasting, these cells also allow earthworms to smell. Oh, then I do wonder, because like I said, I probably wouldn't put a lot of meat in your enclosure because meat might get a little stinky. Meat might get a little stinky, but if you're a worm, you might like the stink. So I don't know. I'll have to ask you after you become a worm if that happens. But yeah, they can sense smells and tastes in the soil. Worms can work out where they need to go to find food. So even though they don't have tongues, they can use different parts of their body to do some of the jobs that our tongues do. Okay. Yeah. So I do wonder then if they like stinkier things. I don't know. It's not important right now though. We'll figure it out when the time comes. If the time comes. But like I said, hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully you stay a human forever. Yeah. Trying to think if there's anything else we need to discuss about this. I don't know. I basically just wanted to ask you because, like, I've thought a lot about it. I really have. Like I said, it's been keeping me up at night. And so I just want to let you know, like, I've thought a lot about it. And I think it's not just an easy yes or no answer if you'd still love me if I were a worm. I really wanted, like a long, intricate, well thought out. Well, I guess it doesn't have to be well thought out. And it doesn't have to be that intricate, but I just want to know that, like, you would really consider it if I was a worm, you know? Like, if it happened, I just want to know that we can solve problems together, or try to, you know? That's what I care about. And, like, if I was a worm, if your immediate answer is to just squish me, we'd probably have to break up because that means you don't like me, right? Because, like, why the frick would you squish me? That's mean and cruel. Especially if you know it's me as a worm. So, yeah, I wouldn't squish you. I would take very good care of you and I would cherish you. And I would even let you be free in the worm city if that's what you wanted. So, that's pretty much all. But I told you how I felt about it and, like, what I would do. So, if you have anything to add, or if you have any ideas for how you would take care of me as a worm, I want to know. I want to know, and I want to fantasize about the worm life. And if we were together, if we were both worms, hypothetically, if we were both worms, we could live in the worm city together. But, if we were both worms, I don't know, where would you want to live as a worm together? I don't think I would want to be, if we were both worms, I don't think I'd want to be a pet. I think I'd want to be in the wild, but it's also more dangerous too, because, like, birds could get us. But if we were both turned into worms, I would hope it's outside. I would hope it doesn't happen in our sleep, and then we have to wiggle around in bed and find our way outside so that we can survive, because, you know, there's no dirt inside, obviously. But yeah, I don't know, there's so much to think about. Anyways, thanks for not laughing at my serious question. I hope that you also think about it. And, yeah, I don't know, let me know your thoughts. Yeah, this is 100% serious. Definitely not meant to be funny at all, and I definitely didn't get carried away. Anyways, until next time. What noise do worms make? Blub, blub, blub. I feel like maybe if they were in the water, because, some people do use them as a bait for fishing. That's kind of morbid, actually. Until next time, blub, blub, blub.